So, welcome. This is Judge Angie Arkin. I am so honored to have you here with us as my very first podcast guest on the Children First Family Law podcast. And I am going to let Judge Arkin introduce herself, and then we'll just get into some questions about her insights into the family law arena. So, Judge Arkin, welcome. Thank you so much for being with me here today. Give us a little background on how you got into family law and got on the bench and just sort of your history.
Well, I actually never took a family law class in law school. Didn't know it was something I was going to end up doing. But when I was in law school, I was working with an attorney who was a litigator, and he did civil and family law.
Mm.
He particularly was not a problem solver. He did
Mm.
not settle his cases, and I was in Georgia where there are jury trials for divorce.
Mm.
It was in the Constitution with a jury of 12. So I learned very early how damaging and harmful divorce can be for families. And Uh, I was practicing in Georgia for 10 years. The first 4 years I was in private practice, and then I was for 6 years um, a prosecutor in uh, a little bit criminal and a lot child support enforcement,
Sure.
and did that for 6 years until I decided. Um, that it was time to replant myself in Colorado because I had always wanted to live here. Came out here and worked with a company that did child support enforcement,
Mm.
uh, consulting. And so I traveled and trained and did all sorts of work in child support enforcement, Nebraska and Arizona and Alabama and Georgia and all over the place. And then I decided I didn't want to be a consultant anymore. That was maybe a year and a half, 2 years. I applied and became a member of the Colorado Bar and decided I was going to focus on domestic relations. The most complicated thing that a judge has to figure out is issues related to children in cases where the parties are in high conflict.
Mhm.
Because there is no truth, and the facts, quote unquote, are very difficult to discern.
Sure.
We can't call children into court to testify. And even if we could, they're not necessarily going to tell us the truth. They're going to do what they need to do to protect themselves in the high conflict situation. And there's so much to learn about psychology and mental health and um, the complex challenges that people have in addiction and mental health circumstances and all sorts of things. Even just socioeconomic issues can impact children pretty significantly. But, you know, um, physical disabilities, um, all sorts of things can impact a family system. And understanding that family system and being willing to take the time to figure out what's best for a child, um, you know, and even then, who knows if we get it right.
So I'm curious, with all the experience you've had, I mean, decades in this industry, I don't know if you call it an industry, even in this field. Um, where do you think we're doing right by kids? Like, what have you seen that we're doing well and that we're not doing well? So when you ponder that, when we're thinking about putting children first in this system, because I know we're always looking for best interests of kids. And I agree with you that families are always so different, and this is very nuanced area. We've got a lot of frustrated parents. Sometimes we have really litigious attorneys. We've got the challenge of judges that are rotating off sometimes and not on for very long. And it's just so many different moving parts that frustrate parents and make them feel that the outcomes are poor. We also have legislative changes that are coming at us all the time. When you look at all that, how do you reflect on what we're doing well and what we could be doing better as it relates to kids in these cases?
Well, I think what we're doing pretty well right now is offering new judicial officers opportunities to learn what they need to know before
Mhm.
they start. Um, I think judicial is doing a much better job than we did many years ago in giving people help. And I know that the family law section and the Colorado American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers, there's a lot of opportunities for training in the family law area. And judicial officers who are interested in learning have lots of opportunities to learn. I think it would be wonderful if we could make sure that people understand how complex this area is and how many mistakes you can make and how they impact families and children, particularly if you don't know what you're doing and you're not interested in learning.
What would your message be and you kind of hit on this, but just to judges, to lawyers, and to parents in this area?
To judges, decide, decide, decide. Do the best you can at that moment, but decide, decide, decide.
Mhm. Okay.
Get your decisions out as quickly as you can. To lawyers, think about the issues that the judge is struggling with, not your client's issues, but the issues that the judge has to decide, and prepare your case with that in mind, not with your client's pain
Mhm.
in mind.
Would there be a secondary, like, not to lead the witness here, right? But when they're not coming to trial, I mean, it sounds like you'd say try to not go to trial. I mean, I just see the problem of why are we in trial all the time
Well,
from the lawyer side.
if you prepare for mediation the way you would otherwise prepare for trial, you probably are going to settle.
Mhm.
Um, but also preparing your client that the court's decision is a compromise and it's the court's compromise, not yours.
Mhm.
Uh, to CFI, CLRs, and PREs, just um, keep an open mind when
Right.
you get started. It's so easy to take the position of the first person you talk to and to have a perspective from that
Mhm.
direction when you talk to the next person.
Mhm.
It's much harder to sort of take in information and process it and think about it and struggle with it because what you do is hard, but it's so important. It's so important.
Mhm.
You shouldn't have a belief to start with that 50-50 is the best for every family or that, one parent or the other is always going to be a better caregiver.
Mhm. Okay, and what about to parents?
Try to see your children, try to look past the pain and don't look at the other person, look down.
Mm.
See your kids,
Mhm.
see your children,
Mhm.
really see them. Don't look at the other person and miss what's going on right in front of you because there's no such thing as the perfect person in a divorce. Everybody has issues, everybody has things they could have done better. everybody has things they need to move forward from. And you not only need to forgive yourself, but you need to forgive the other person for being human.
Mhm.
And, forward. Focus on forward. That's
Yeah.
where you need to go.
That's right.
That's the only place any of us can go.
Right.